Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome to Inspired by the Quran series. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, ما عندكم ينفد وما عند الله باق ولنجزئن الذين صبروا أجرهم بأحسن ما كانوا يعملون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran that ما عندكم ينفد وما عند الله باق, that whatever is with you, ما عندكم ينفد, will be exhausted, will run out. وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ, and whatever is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of our good deeds will remain with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَنَجْزِئَنَّ الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward those who are patient. بِأَحْسَنِ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ, we will certainly pay them a reward in proportion to the best of what they used to do. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that ma indakum yanfad, that whatever is with you is going to be exhausted, will run out. Wa ma indallahi baq, and whatever we send to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remain permanently with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So ma indakum yanfad will be exhausted, will run out, whatever we have. Wa ma indallahi baq, and whatever we send to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remain permanently. لأن ما عندكم فان زائل, whatever is with us is temporary. It will go away, it will be taken away from us. وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ دَائِمٍ, and whatever is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will remain and will be permanent. So the reality is that we need to realize that there are temporary things and there are permanent things in our life. And the things which are temporary will exhaust, and the things which are permanent will remain. So the question is, what do we have? What do we own? What do we possess as human beings in our life that if that stays with us will be exhausted, will run out? But if we can send it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it will remain with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ, and will become permanent. There's so many things we have in our life, but in particular there are two things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with: al-amwal wal-awlad. We are being blessed with al-amwal, the wealth, and al-awlad, the children. But I will say not only the wealth, amwal also includes our money and our skills, that we can use it to earn money. And our children, not only our children, but our manpower, our human resources. So these are two things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with, al-amwal and al-awlad. Now if they stay with us, they will be exhausted, will run out. But if we can send it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they will remain permanently with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, how do we go about in our day-to-day life, when we conduct our daily life? Because we will need amwal, we will need awlad, we will need money, human resources, manpower to have a better life. So there's nothing wrong with that. But how do we at the same time in our day-to-day life utilize our amwal and our awlad that we can send it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that it remains with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So therefore, if we want to do that, if we can turn it into good deeds, if we can turn our amwal and awlad into good deeds, in doing good deeds, al-a'mal as-salihat wal-hasanat, then it will become permanent. Now, how do we know that it is a good deed? Because we all do good deeds in our day-to-day life. There are so many good deeds we do in our life. But how do we know that that good deed is a good deed? And that good deed will go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will remain with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will become a permanent good deed for us. So it is very important that not only we get up doing good deeds only, but we make sure that our good deeds are good deeds in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, if we look at our daily ibadah, inshallah, with the right intention and with the right way of doing it, it will become good deeds. But other than our daily ibadah, there are many other good things that we do and we can do, and we can make it or turn it into good deeds which will remain permanently with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we fulfill two conditions, then any of our good deeds will become real good deeds in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah will be rewarding us in the hereafter. So the condition number one is an-niyyah, the intention. So whenever we do any good deed, we've got to ask ourselves a question: is it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Whatever we will be doing, is it to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is it for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So the first condition is the right intention. If we make the right intention, then it will become a good deed. If we do it for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that deed will become a good deed which will remain with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. And the second condition, if we can fulfill, then it will become a good deed which will remain with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, Allah will be rewarding us in the hereafter. عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. Whatever deed we carry out, that good deed must have an element of either number one, a-dhikr, or number two, a-shukr, or number three, al-manfa'. So whatever good deed we do, if that deed has an element of either a-dhikr, remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or a-shukr, being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or al-manfa', being beneficial. So in other words, we do a good deed, and that good deed has an element of remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And or that good deed also or separately has an element of a shukr, that we show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the blessings He has bestowed upon us. And or that good deed individually or separately has an element of manfa', that it benefits other people. So therefore, if we are benefiting the humanity, if we are showing gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we are remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and with the right intention to attain the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, any deed can become a good deed, and we can turn it into a good deed which will stay with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ, whatever is with you will exhaust. وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ, and whatever is with Allah will remain. So therefore, let us start sending our good deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that it becomes permanent and it remains with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah rewards us in the hereafter. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.